What is it that you can only get in an intimate relationship that you can't get in any other kind of environment or other relationship?
I guess it would be sex.
Okay, so if it's an intimate relationship, presumably you want sex, right? For me, it's the ability to be seen as fully myself, and it's high quality sex, as there's chemistry, if you want to call it that. Again, there's that word, and it's also the ability to be vulnerable. Those are my needs in an intimate relationship. Everything else is a want. I mean, you find a lot of people saying, "Hey, I need a pickleball player and a chef and someone that's got their passport and can travel, and like especially
spontaneous, blah blah blah." But what you're really
I want someone spontaneous yet stable. Basically, it's just like this kind of Frankenstein monster.
A good, healthy sex life, and you want to be seen, and you want to be able to open up to them without.
Right, and anything else, like go do a meetup group or play pickleball or go to your book club or find other people to travel with. Like, don't put that crap on your intimate relationship.
Coming up on this week's episode of the Ask Women How to Get the Girl podcast, we have the author of Primal Dating, who is going to talk to us about the unflinching evolutionary psychology guide to modern relationships, where he is going to break down how men and women work. Not the things that they do, but the things that drive them, the instincts that we have, the things that we may not be able to fully control about ourselves, so that we can understand each other better. Tim Ash is here to tell us all about his book and all about evolutionary psychology and how it pertains to dating, love, and relationships. So keep listening.
Thank you. It's great to be with you, Marty. Just some quick background. Going back to my college days, I was interested in cognitive science. That was one of my majors. Then I did PhD work in AI and neural networks. And then that led to a career in marketing. And I ran a marketing.
You did stuff in college for AI?
Yeah. Like this is early days. Okay. Probably around the time you were born.
You were ahead of your time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I missed that wave by about 30 years, but whatever. Yeah. And so after college, I started my first company, which was essentially a digital marketing company to improve websites. And a lot of that psychology, you want people to take action on your website, you need to be able to persuade them. And so I was really leaning into a lot of my kind of roots about how to persuade people. And that goes back to psychology. And psychology to me is all about evolutionary psychology. In other words, we evolve for a particular purpose. And there's some stuff we share with fruit flies, like dopamine and whatever, and stuff we share with mammals. And then there's stuff at the end of our evolution that makes us distinctly and bizarrely human. So if you want to understand human behavior, that was my next book I wrote, Unleash Your Primal Brain, Demystifying How We Think and How We Act. And it was kind of an overview of all of evolutionary psychology in a very readable format. And we had one chapter in there. I had one chapter in there about gender differences and the asymmetries between men and women. And that's the one that everybody kept talking about. And so that's what led to co-authoring this latest book, Unleash Your Primal Brain, with the brilliant Dr. Limor Gottlieb. And what we're trying to do is just kind of tear back all the cultural overlays and say, hey, this is what we're like as a species. These are our tendencies, like it or lump it. But you need to hear this stuff.
I think it's amazing. So tell us. It's interesting because I had an interesting conversation, an offline conversation last week with a guy on YouTube who kind of does what I do, but for men. And we were having a conversation about, I don't even know how to frame this. Like why women take on the load in their household, in their brain, like this mental load that everybody's talking about. Like why women take that on, and how do we get men to also take it on? And he took on this interesting position that I can't really even explain properly, but he was talking about all of this built-in programming that exists for men that was evolutionary as to why they literally cannot. They become paralyzed when attempting to do what we women do. So I find all of this extremely fascinating. I'd love to dive into that and dive into 30 other
let's start at kind of the root level, which is what the hell is evolutionary psychology and why should I give a crap? Okay. Well, so evolution basically says this: you have to have two people to get together, they have a kid, that kid's grows up enough to be viable themselves, and they have kids. Okay, so that's a pretty low bar. Okay, there's nothing in there about your happiness, how to divide chores in the household, or anything like that. Lifelong monogamy. It's just like get together, have kids, make sure the kid's viable, and off to the races. So basically, evolution is like this high pressure version of your junior high cafeteria. Like all the cool kids sit together at one table and all the nerds and, band geeks sit together at another
Right.
one. And basically you just kind of roughly pair up into equal value pairs. No one's punching above their weight. No one's going to get, Prince Charming or like Pretty Woman. The billionaire's not rolling up with a bouquet of roses for you. That sort of thing. It's roughly equal pairing. And, you've talked about this in a lot of your podcasts about, the sexual marketplace and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so if we start with that as a basis, then the next question we have to ask is, okay, what about us as a species? Are we the same or different? So this kind of goes back to your question of like who should do chores, or men and women wired for it. Well, guess what? We're really different. Men are on average 25% larger.
Okay.
More importantly, we have 15 to 20 times as much testosterone as women. And that's, aggression, initiative, that sort of thing. Not always healthy, but that's the reality of it. So if you look at that, you say, well, we were probably designed for very different roles. So if you look at modern society, we've been in this civilization for a few decades, but we evolved on the plains of Africa for 250,000 years. That's like 10,000 generations. So that's still in there and it's not going anywhere, and we can't evolve away from it. So it's really, really important to understand what environment we evolved for and how that shapes us today.
Interesting. Okay, tell me more. I just want you to talk the entire time. Tell me about all of our differences. Tell me why
Okay.
we do the things that we do. Like, just tell us, like, what is possible for genders for sex? Like,
Okay.
what?
All right.
Yeah, I
Well,
want to
let's start with
understand.
the what I consider to be the most basic difference, which I've already touched on, which is the amount of risk. Okay, so one of the things, like our superpower as humans is we adapt culturally to whatever environment we're in. We don't adapt physically to it. Like have squirrels that can shimmy down trees, others that hibernate, huge ones, small ones. People are
Right.
basically physically the same. So our superpower was whatever environment we're in, when we took over the whole planet, let's just learn from the tribe around us. That means we have these really big brains. They take a long time to mature. But if I know how to survive in the desert by watching my tribe, I can also survive in the Arctic, with the Inuits by watching their tribe, right? So that's our superpower. But that puts us at a big disadvantage, which is that we have helpless, floppy headed babies that are useless for years. And so that puts a huge risk on the woman. And so back in the day, okay, before 401ks, before houses you
Right.
lived in, what you needed as a woman, if you're going to take that much risk to have sex and a baby with someone, is you needed them to provide every day. And by the way, who are you going to send out on the hunt? Well, it's the 25% larger,
Right.
15, 20 times more aggression, hormones people, or you. You're going to send out the men. So you had to have a man who was a good provider. And I know this is like kind of the cartoon version, but I think you get it. And so the woman bred men to find their best option. They needed the one best option that could bring home the meat every day from the hunt, not nonstop. Otherwise, she dies, her baby dies.
Right. And she was
And
taking care of everything else. He had to get the food. She would take care of
yeah,
everything
yeah,
else.
and so there's kind of those gender differences already starting, and the men were bred by women on the Serengeti to be really good providers. But what that meant is that we had to take risks. So the biggest difference, you have like on average, men and women are the same. You take a look at any psychological or behavioral dimension, on average, that's true. But what's different is the shape of the bell curve. Women's are really tightly clustered because of that risk aversion. They want to have security and safety. That's the primary motivation, and stability. Whereas men are a roll of the dice. Sometimes it's snake eyes, sometimes it's sevens. And the way we can prove that from a scientific standpoint is like if we look at mitochondrial DNA, sorry to geek out on you,
No, geek out.
that's the part that's passed down through the mother. Okay, that's the DNA. Of course, the Y chromosome only through the father. And here's what we know: in our ancestral past, there were twice as many women as men.
Interesting.
Okay, so what that means, what's the implication? Women generally get to reproduce, otherwise you don't have kids. That means that half the dudes didn't get to be in the gene pool. And that's what I'm saying. There was like this roll of the dice, and only the most competitive ones got to survive. So both genders have shaped each other. Women for men being better provisioners, and men for being those high performers that would be attractive to women.
Okay. So what's happening now? Because it's been hundreds of years since we sent men off to go hunt for us. Even though I would say it's probably only been about 50 where we've sort of separated those roles. It looks different, but it is like a separation and a shift.
Well, yeah, yeah. So the surprise is that most people know it's only about 15, 16, 1700 that half this planet started farming. Before that, we were all pretty much hunter gatherers. And again, that's 10,000 generations going back 200,000 years. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, so we stopped evolving. That's the practical uptake. And we live in this bizarre society with 8 billion people and very complicated stuff. But our instincts are frozen in time at that kind of caveman level, if you will. And there's a lot of distortions. Modern society makes things way worse. Like when I know you've covered on in your work a lot of stuff about online dating. That's how most people meet these days, right? It's a
Well,
shit
actually,
show.
hold on a second. So why did evolution stop? And how do you know
Well,
that
what I mean
evolution
is like
stopped? Because it's
evolution.
happening continuously all the time, even though it might not be shifting the way our bodies are.
Well, yeah,
Or
technically it hasn't stopped. In fact, there's evidence that it's accelerating. Like we have wisdom teeth pulled because our jaws are getting smaller. We have
right,
blue
or
eyes,
we're
like I
mating
have.
men, like yeah,
Yeah, like that I have blue eyes, and that's only recent. Like the 12,000 years ago, blue eyes came on the scene. We're evolving towards lactose tolerance, so we can drink dairy, which again we wouldn't have done unless we were a baby
right,
cow back in the day, right? But that is so slow compared to like the basic mechanisms that work inside of us. What I mean, effectively, evolution has stopped. So
okay,
it's like we're all cavemen dressed up in modern clothes, and
right.
and so,
But aren't we cavemen that can learn? So like
well,
right? So it's
yeah,
it's
well,
not. So what I'm hearing from you is that everything isn't. We do have a certain makeup in our bodies, in our minds, in our genes, in our chromosome, like all of that. Which I don't even know what the difference
yes.
is between most of those. But we have differences. But
Yes,
what I'm also hearing from you is that we can also learn and adjust.
we can learn and adjust our environment. So again, to survive in cold places, to survive in hot places, to survive in big cities, to survive in on
Which means that
rural
we
farms.
can adjust our behaviors too and
Yeah,
our
but not our
norms, right?
instincts. Like the
Not our
deepest
instincts.
instinct
Okay,
is to
that's the interesting part.
reproduce,
It's the
right?
instinct.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. So that stuff is like wired into to us at such a deep level, and then we just put these cultural labels on it. And some of them are rooted in evolutionary psychology, but they're all just cultural overlays. So we're just trying to say, like, go back to the evolutionary biology and look at what we are as a species.
right.
Um,
So are you
so for,
saying that men cannot have the same instincts as women, even if we shifted things in their environment,
right, right.
which
So
is
so
what's happening right now?
yeah. So here's some cultural overlays. I'm going to say a bunch of things, and I bet you'll violently agree with some and violently disagree with others.
Right.
Okay, you ready? Okay, it's all the fault of the patriarchy. Marriage is ordained by God and will last a lifetime. Let's see. Men are all players, women are all sluts or gold diggers. Those are just cultural overlays.
Right.
Now they're based in some true stuff, but we're stuck on that culture stuff because we think that's bedrock and it's not. And
Okay.
so, again, what we're trying to do is like peel back some of that stuff. And so here's the biology. We're not monogamous as a species. There's plenty of evidence for that. And so, but we do stick around long enough to have, like I said, useless babies and make sure they can walk around and find their own food.
Right.
Um, we're highly jealous, but we're jealous for different reasons. Men are jealous because they don't want to raise someone else's kid,
Right.
like your genes didn't get carried on. Women are jealous if men stop provisioning and their attention goes elsewhere. So, like, the worst thing you can say to a man is like, "Well, it didn't mean anything, but I slept with them." Okay,
Yeah.
right? That would be a bad move. And for the woman, the worst thing you can say is like, "Well, we didn't have sex, but we were just like super good friends, and we want to go out to lunch
Right.
at work." Right? You see how that hits differently because from again an evolutionary standpoint, we care about different things. Men care about paternal certainty, and women care about ongoing provisioning. So they're both threatened by a withdrawal of whatever their thing is.
Right. Of what could be taken
Um,
away from them.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's based on different things, and also men have different strategies for short term and long term. So do women. And how we select and each other is very very different.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So I want to dive into love hormones and the stages of bonding, which is something that you talk
Okay.
about in your book.
Yeah, yeah. So this is kind of interesting. So what's the word we use for love? We fall in love, right? We fall out of love. It's involuntary. So most people, so it's really funny on dating profiles. I'm sure you've seen this, especially women, because they put relationship goals first. It's like, I want my ride or die, my last first date, my soulmate, like these kind of words, right? This
Yeah.
word salad, basically, like I'm looking for my person is going to do everything for me. Well, that's not how it works. Somebody's just standing in front of you, and there's a hormonal cascade, and all these chemicals, drip into your body. And there's actually, we know what they are. There's three different systems chemically. The first one is to get you into lust. The second one is to get you to be exclusive. And the third one is to get you to stick around long enough to have kids and raise them together. So, basically screwing only one person and screwing only one person for a long time. But those aren't stages. Those are three different chemical systems that don't even work in that order. So one of them can be on, the other two can be off, or two of them can be on and the other one's off. So there's a lot of mismatches in this. Like when you get into a relationship, like somebody really gets the feels and they're already falling in love and somebody else is not quite there yet or may never be there.
Right.
And so that love cocktail kind of lasts about 9 to 24 months. And then inevitably it stops. So all the things that you thought were adorable and cute about somebody all of a sudden are highly annoying. And the behavior hasn't changed. It's just that
Yeah.
you're not getting your brain flooded with the right hormones anymore.
Is there,
Uh,
I mean, because you've had these children and that process is done. So
yeah,
is there a way
yeah.
to get those same hormones again from those
No,
people?
no,
Or
you
is it just
can't get
like
them
move
from
on
the
to the
same
next?
person. Yeah, you really can't. So some people, now this is not to say that you can't have long term relationships. It's not to say that you can't use your relationship as a testing ground. I mean, you're married, I'm married. We want to like say, okay, I'm going to have you as a mirror, and I'm going to grow as a human being. And that's a conscious choice, and that's a lot of work. And for some people, that lasts a lifetime, which is wonderful. But again, evolutionarily speaking, is we're just designed to get together and have kids and to raise them so they can have kids.
Right.
Uh, in fact, there's evidence that if people cohabitate, this is kind of interesting. If two people move in together, but they don't have kids, their relationship chances go way down. And that's because the biology is telling you is like, what the hell's wrong? You're living together, you're screwing each other, and no kids are being produced. Go do something else.
Right. How do
So
you how do you take this information in for your marriage? Like, how does that impact your marriage?
well, in the book, what we do is we outline like the evolutionary psychology, how it's distorted by modern society, and then we have guides in there for men from a women's perspective and women from the men's perspective. And I think the key is to basically be reality based, understand these kind of evolutionary forces, and put as little as possible on the relationship. So one of the universal things that we tell people is like the advice for men and women is only do what you need in your intimate relationship.
Meaning what?
Well, let me put it another way. What is it that you can only get in an intimate relationship that you can't get in any other kind of environment or other relationship?
I guess it would be sex.
Okay, so if it's an intimate relationship, presumably you want sex, right? For me, it's that it's the ability to be seen as fully myself, and it's high quality sex as there's chemistry, if you want to call it that. Again, that there's that word, and it's also the ability to be vulnerable. That those are my needs in an intimate relationship. Everything else is a want. I mean, you find a lot of people saying, "Hey, I need a pickleball player and a chef and someone that's got
Right.
their passport and can travel and
Yeah, it
like
wants to be
especially
spontaneous, blah blah blah. But what you're
yeah,
really
I want
saying
someone
is,
spontaneous yet stable. Basically,
yes,
it's just like this
you
kind
want
of
to have
Frankenstein
a
monster.
good healthy sex life, and you want to be seen, and you want to be able to open up to them without
Right. And
fear.
anything else, like go do a meetup group or play pickleball or go to your book club or find other people to travel with. Like don't put that crap on your intimate relationship because right now it's already hard enough to have one and you've put all this extra weight on it and it's going to break. Or
That's
more
interesting
likely to
because
do.
I think the pickleball seems easier than being seen, right?
How's that? Oh,
Especially two
yeah, exactly. You
individuals.
can find, yeah, exactly. It's like, to me, it's like, intimacy and an intimate connection is like a very sacred space.
Yeah. But so
And
that has to have desire. And you're saying the desire wanes after you
it,
have kids.
it will, and even before you have kids, like I said, I mean, there are three stages or gates, I kind of call them sometimes, in any relationship. And the power flips between the man and the woman to make things worse. It's like we talk about it as if men and women are interchangeable and they're going to have the same desires or lack of
Yeah.
desires. Well, that's not true. So here's the three gates of any long-term relationship. The first one is the power of the man to say who he wants to approach behavior. And that's universal across all societies. Men approach. Okay. The second is the woman's choice of whether she's going to have sex with someone. And the third, this is what a lot of women also mistake often, is the power flips back to the man at that point, and then it's his decision whether to provision or invest more in that relationship.
Right.
And so what you have to think about is like, what stage are we in? Who has the power, and things like that very much
Yeah. Well,
influence.
there's a billion other stages that come after that for sure that I've seen progress in relationships. I've seen this new video going around recently. It's like an old quote that I've heard. You know, like
Uh-huh.
what's the number one thing that makes men live longer, earn 7% more in their income, and be 10 times happier? Getting married. What's the one thing that depresses women, has them dying younger, and whatever? You know, it's what is
Getting
that?
married,
Getting
right?
married, right? So there are other stages that happen as well. So after this, like men getting the power back, right, of being the one provide provisions. What does it go into afterwards?
Well,
Because
no, no,
if
I
you
didn't
don't,
mean to say, no, I didn't say there aren't stages. What I said, those are the three gates,
oh, the three.
that
Okay, got
happen.
it.
Someone has to approach, someone has to be willing to sleep with someone, and then someone has to be willing to
To
continue
decide
the
if they want to provide.
relationship. And that's where you find those male female asymmetries. In between, what you have is a lot of negotiation. So if I had to sum up like kind of women's script, and we talk about this in the book, this is a universal script. Okay, so the first thing is she's going to see if she's attracted to you. The second thing, she's going to want to be exclusive with you. The third thing is she's going to test you continuously.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's a negotiation in every relationship. So the woman generally will try to get more provisioning. What does that mean? More of your time, attention, and
Yeah.
resources. Okay. And anytime you start slipping on that as a guy, that's when there's a threat to the relationship. So part of that is jealousy, like you're paying attention to other women, but some of it could be you're not provisioning. Like women initiate three-quarters of relationship breakups in this country. And I think that's pretty much universal as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know when that usually happens? When the man starts losing economic power.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just kind of perpetually in neutral or moonwalking to the basement, the woman again is like looking for her best option. And if you stop becoming her best option, women are programmed to have a plan B and monkey branch over to a
Somebody
better
else.
setup. Yeah.
To somebody
So,
else.
so the real danger is when a man is losing economic power. And here's where that runs into
Is it? Oh,
modernity.
sorry. Is it always tied to economic power, or just
Um,
like power to provide
well, yeah, and sometimes
moving
it's seen as
forward?
aggression or alliances or things like that enter into it too. But generally speaking, it's economic power. And here's where the problem is. So again, if women want their single best option, that's hypergamy is the technical term for it. They want a guy who's doing better than them. Well, what do you do when
He's doing
60% of
better than
college
them.
degrees in this country are awarded to women? What do you do when women are out earning men in major metro areas until they decide to have a kid? That's the reality today. So guys that would have been a good match in the past, the women are effectively invisible to them because
So
they
how do men evolve from this space? Because that sounds like this is a new shift, right? That women
it,
are. So how do they evolve so
yeah.
that
So well, I don't know if it evolves. I see symptoms of broken relationship formation all over the place. Right? Is in modern society we have several factors that are unbalancing what would have been a normal sexual marketplace, if you will. So the first we've already talked about. Women are doing better, but they still expect men who are doing even better than them, right?
Mhm.
Another thing is the approach behavior we talked about that always falls on men is consequence free online. I can swipe right on 1,000 people. I'm not getting shot down in a bar by somebody, right? Well, it sounds like a good idea, except when you realize that that means that every woman, regardless of her value, if you will, has hundreds of people in her inbox.
Right.
and thinks she's all that in a bag of chips and thinks she's a 10, right? So that distorts things. Plus the fact that there are twice as many men on online dating sites as women, that's not exactly a balanced marketplace. That's a disaster recipe right there. And then there's stranger danger. Remember we were talking about risk taking, and women's foundational concern is safety for themselves, for their potential offspring, and not just safety from other men, safety from their intimate partner as well. And so if you don't know someone, the default setting for women is they're your worst nightmare.
Yep.
You're going to get, whatever,
Murdered, raped.
dismembered on your first date and left
Yeah.
in a dark alley somewhere, right? And guess what happens online? Everybody is a total stranger. So on a scale of 1 to 10, that means that women automatically knock off a couple of points just because they don't personally know you yet.
Right.
And so you combine all of that stuff, and there's nothing kind of left in the middle. A lot of people are opting out. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of these sites like T or Are We Dating the Same Guy? So a lot of guys are like,
That one I've heard
no.
of before. No.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, do you want to unpack that a little bit?
Sure. Well, tell me about that. Yeah. Are we
Okay.
dating the same
So
guy?
so Facebook has these local groups. It started out this way, like, Are We Dating the Same Guy? And the ostensible purpose for them is like to make sure that the guy isn't dangerous, or he's not trying to roofie you or that
Oh,
kind
there's
of.
another site like that as well. Yeah, that I've
Yeah.
heard of, where you can share experiences with other women to sort of like
Yeah.
warn other women.
Which sounds wonderful in theory, and
In
the
theory,
motivation.
until you get angry women.
What you get is zero accountability and
Yes,
no
exactly. You
input
can
from
say
the men.
anything about anybody, and whatever
Exactly.
it's
And,
your
and
distorted.
you can tear
Yeah.
men down. You can
Yes.
try to make some guys look bad. I mean, people have lost their jobs and
Oh yeah.
careers over
Horrible.
this, right? There's zero
It's
accountability. And
horrible.
so a lot of guys are looking at this and saying, screw it. I'd rather play video games in my mom's basement and whack off to porn.
Totally.
Okay. And that's the
Get an
solution.
AI girlfriend. Sounds easier.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, a lot less work. Right. Yeah. And porn is also like a separate thing. So again, grossly speaking, what do men and women want? Men want sexual opportunity, and women want provisioning. Well, traditionally, we know how you get those in a relationship with a bunch of compromises and a lot of work.
Right.
Now, I want a sexual partner. I want infinite variety. I want hot tens. I want to do it with two hot tens, or two hot tens and a dog and a goat. Yeah, you can get that in porn right now.
Right.
Right now, it may not be as satisfying, but it's kind of a shallow substitute. Same thing for women. Okay, I want $1 million from one guy. Well, that's not available. But you know what? I can bend over and pretend to do yoga in really tight pants,
And
and
then they'll pay me.
then you pay me $1, and I get that from 1 million guys. So
Hmm.
OnlyFans or something like that,
Hmm.
right? And so what you have is like people are going for these pale substitutes, and so that gives you even less reason to get out of the freaking house and go meet people face to face. So that's also contributing to the problem.
Interesting. People always ask me when I go into different podcasts, like, what's changed in the dating industry? But it's funny, you're saying that, and that sounds like a complete difference, right, in the world of dating. I
Mm-hmm.
don't see that on my end. Like in my space for the men that I coach, I don't see that it's shifted. The mediums have shifted, and the fears are the same. The insecurities are exactly the same. So it's interesting. Like you see it from a
Uh,
very different perspective than I am seeing it.
yeah, well, let's talk about just online versus what you're doing, which is coaching, matchmaking. That's on the upswing. Like 20 years ago, Tinder was cool, but now it's just like this wasteland. All the online dating
Yeah.
sites. I mean, think about their business model. It's to keep you coming back and paying them subscriptions. That's the basic model, right? Which means you'll never be satisfied. They don't want you to be satisfied. They don't want you to form stable long-term relationships. So online dating is really not working, and that's why a lot of people are turning back to traditional matchmaking, for example, and that sort of thing, and paying $20,000 $30,000 to
Yes, I know.
go
They're
on
paying
some
a fortune
dates.
for it, and they don't even get results most of the time. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So not that is necessarily a solution, but clearly online dating isn't working. Oh, by the way, um, the best people aren't in online dating,
The best people are what?
are not in online dating.
What do you mean?
Well, so let's think about it. If you're, just like genetically gifted and a beautiful young woman, so you have an option. You can go with Jimmy to the local bar and say hello and have a drink, or there's somebody's willing to fly you to Dubai or Paris for the weekend. The opportunity cost of being on a dating site, is really high. And it's the same for a successful guy. Let's say you earn a lot of money, you have career
Yeah.
success. For you to go on a date, you get dressed, takes 3-4 hours.
That's a
You
lot of
go on a
effort.
date, you pay for dinner, and you have some kind of chance of getting shot down. Well, it's a lot easier to pay for an expensive girlfriend experience call girl for several thousand and get a guaranteed result
Yeah.
that you know you'll be happy with. So the best people aren't on there, and also people with secure attachment styles, and so there's a lot of damaged and pissed off people on
Yeah.
dating sites. It's not the general population.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I wish I could have you talk for like 3 more hours. I'm gonna end the show because I'm about to have a major coughing fit, and I apologize for being sick for this show. But I think this is so interesting. I just love hearing about how humans work, and then I love also questioning, not questioning what you're saying, but
Mm-hmm.
questioning that. Like, how much control does that app actually have over us? Because there's certain times where I really bought into this is how I'm supposed to be, this is how I'm built. And then I realized this is how I've altered, this is how I've changed, this is how I've grown. And I've
Mm.
always wondered like what the correlation is there. What's the capability for most people?
Yeah,
Like how much does it stuff like this like lock people into a belief system about themselves? And like it's kind of like labeling now, right?
yeah,
I've got ADHD. Well, no, you don't,
right, right, right.
but you do have difficulty with X, Y, and Z. Like I always wonder it. Not that listen, I'm not trying to doubt anything that you're saying. I think I love it. I love learning about evolutionary psychology. I think it's so important to know these things about ourselves and to know that that's where our instincts lie. But I think also to know that that there are core instincts, but that these instincts aren't our complete. They maybe our drivers. They're not
Yeah,
our
yeah.
controllers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's actually the note that we end the book on. We say, like,
I love
don't
that.
let that, that chimp in your head make the shots from the control room. These are
Yeah.
tendencies. And if the more you see them for what they are, the less you actually judge them and the more effective you'll be. So you're in control of your destiny. Hopefully you're evolving as a human, and hopefully you being a better human is attracting other better humans. So
Yeah.
that's really the name of the
Yeah,
game.
I
There's
love that. I love that message. And I'm sorry that I did not get to read the book. I only read a couple of pages and read the back of the book. But I will. I want to read that section because I think that sounds really, really interesting and like very in line with how I'm thinking now. So Tim,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on, and for everybody listening. Go check out primaldating.com. That's primaldating.com because that's where they can get both of the books that you mentioned.
Well, the other
And
one is primalbrain.com, unleash your primal brain. Yeah, but
primalbrain.com.
both of them are available on Amazon or anywhere you want to look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for coming onto the show. And guys, thanks for listening to this episode. You did not get to hear me choking in the background because I put myself on mute, but I am going to go lie in a bath and have some tea and read a few pages from Primal Dating, which I find very fascinating now.
Yeah, and then
Tim,
just
thank you
one
for coming
final
on.
word on that is
Yeah.
that it's really not just about dating. I mean, there's a lot of practical advice in there in the men's and women's guides about dating and your profile, that sort of thing. But 85% of the book is really for understanding the other sex. So we've had a lot of
Yes.
married couples or ones in long-term relationships like read it together, or like one reads it and gives it to the other one. And he's like, do I really act like this? Oh, do you understand me better? Our goal is to just make it
Educate.
reality based and have people have a much more empathetic view of each other instead of these gender wars. No one wins the gender war. The whole
No.
human race goes out of existence if that happens.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The more that we can understand about other people and where they're coming from, the better off we are. So that was a great way to end this. Tim, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, again, go to primaldating.com and thank you so much for listening to this episode of How to Get the Girl podcast. I'm trying to figure out a way to say this. How to Get the Girl podcast brought to you by Ask Women because I do not want that brand name to go away. But thank you guys for listening. You guys are awesome. New episodes of the Ask Women podcast / How to Get the Girl podcast come out every Tuesday morning whenever Kristen wakes up and posts it. That is when it goes up. Again, thank you so much for listening. And Tim, thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.